Cronenbourg 564. Sponsor du Tour de France.
At 9:50 this morning, 169 riders left Lourdes for their rendezvous with the Pyrenees. Not going with them, Claudio Chiappucci, the Italian climber, sick and one of 4 non-starters today. Ahead, 4 high mountains. The Col du Tourmalet is climbed after 109 kilometers and goes up to 1,569 meters. Then it's on to the Col d'Aspen, a mere 1,489 meters, and a stepping stone to the most famous climb of them all, the Col du Tourmalet. This is the high spot of the Tour in the Pyrenees at 2,115 meters. It is the giant of the southern mountain range. The finish comes at Lourdes-Luz Ardiden after 210 kilometers, and that also stands at 1,715 meters. And that's where I am now at the finishing line here in Lourdes-Luz Ardiden. The climb behind me lined, as always, by tens of thousands of spectators, most of them speaking Spanish. They've come here to cheer one man, Miguel Indurain. Now, when the race last came here in 1990, Indurain didn't disappoint. He won the stage. Since 1991, he's won every Tour de France, and he's in the lead again. He leads ahead of Tony Rominger of Switzerland, Armand de las Cuevas of France. Behind them comes Peter Ugrumov of Latvia, and then Luc Leblanc of France, and finally creeping into the frame now, Bjorn Ries of Denmark. At the start this morning, Paul Schoen spoke to them to assess the move.
You know, Phil, there's definitely no feeling of defeat in the village this morning. In fact, earlier I had a chance to talk to Barney Rice from the Gaviz team, and he was telling me that Pietro Ugrumov, his teammate, and himself had come to form just at the right time, and they're good men to attack in the mountains. The Festina squad with Luc Leblanc are absolutely euphoric after that win 2 days ago, and they'll be having a go too. Tony Rominger seems a little bit happier after his 1 day's illness, and he says he'll go out there to attack, even if it's just for stage victories. He's going to put Miguel Indurain under pressure, and the riders here in the Tour de France know where Indurain's weakness is. It's on the mountain stages.
Well, as we reach the foot of the Col du Tourmalet, the first big test of the day, Miguel Indurain was already on the defensive. An attack coming from Roberto Torres after 32 kilometers on the descent of a small climb, the Côte de Mauvaisin. Torres is 29 years of age and, in fact, 23 minutes overall down on the race leader. He got to the Col du Tourmalet, though, with a lead of over 9 minutes on the main field, and chasing in between was Thierry Marie of France and the big tall Italian Eros Poli. They were around about 3 minutes back midway up the climb. Then Eros Poli began to fade, leaving Thierry Marie on his own, and a new chase group was forming behind, and still there was no sign of Miguel Indurain. In the chase group at first were Oliveira Rincon, Laudelino Cubino, Richard Virenque, Nelson Rodriguez, Oscar Pelliccioli, Garcia Camacho and Udo Bolts. They got rid of Garcia Camacho and Rincon, and then it was mostly Virenque and Cubino and Pelliccioli doing all of the work. The gap was coming down as well. Midway up the climb, the yellow jersey of Miguel Indurain was now only 6 minutes back, while the group containing Richard Virenque was closing in very rapidly on Roberto Torres. Even so, Roberto Torres was the first rider to the top of the real big climbs of this year's Tour de France. He went over alone and commenced his long descent. Thierry Marie, unfortunately our camera is not showing him, he went over the top at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And the split behind too, Richard Virenque marginally ahead of the rest of the chase group at 4 minutes 33. In fourth place was Udo Bolts, followed by Pelliccioli, Laudelino Cubino and Rodriguez. Miguel Indurain, for his part, was riding under no pressure, it seemed, at or near the front of what was remaining of the main part of the field. He went over the top at 5 minutes and 32 seconds down. So on to the Col d'Aspen, and Thierry Marie quickly caught up with Roberto Torres with 6 kilometers still to climb. But then there was a chase group of 6 not far behind. Richard Virenque, Laudelino Cubino, Rodriguez, Pelliccioli, Bolts and Dufaux. They caught and dropped Torres quickly, and Marie was soon to follow, leaving the 6 to progress. And as they came up to the summit, Richard Virenque sprinted clear, chased by Pelliccioli, to get the King of the Mountains points and to move into the lead now in the King of the Mountains competition. The yellow jersey group of Miguel Indurain, being trailed here by Tony Rominger, went over the summit 5 minutes 15 seconds in arrears. So the riders came on to the Col du Tourmalet, which starts at the village of Saint-Marie-du-Campon. The same 6 men out in front, a lead over the main field of 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Once onto the climb, Richard Virenque was having a great day and launched a tremendous acceleration, which came with 10 kilometers still to climb. It got rid of Pelliccioli of Italy, Udo Boltz of Germany, and soon after as well, Laurent Dufaux from Switzerland of the Once team. That left just 3 men out in front, Virenque, Rodriguez from Colombia and Cubino from Spain. They still had 45 kilometers to race, and they still had the best part of 10 kilometers to climb to the top of the Col du Tourmalet. Then came an attack from the main field, and Marco Pantani, the rider who almost won until he was caught by Indurain on the other day in the Pyrenees 2 days ago, broke clear of the field and started a lone pursuit. And amongst riders in trouble at the back of the field we heard of were Lance Armstrong, the world champion, and Bjorn Ries, lying 6th overall. And then came the killer blow in the town of La Mongie, in front of a tremendous support from the French. Richard Virenque attacked again, and this time he broke the elastic of Laudelino Cubino, who has won on Lourdes-Luz Ardiden in the past. And then, to a tremendous cheer and working so hard, this man started to dance his way up to the top of the Col du Tourmalet. And by the time he got up there, he crossed alone in the lead to confirm his overall lead now in the King of the Mountains today. And what a marvellous day he's had. 2 minutes 39 seconds later, Cubino went over the top, followed by Pelliccioli, Rodriguez, Dufaux, and the yellow jersey bunch went over the top over 8 minutes behind. So that was the situation on the Col du Tourmalet, and as they began their descent, it seemed like a good time for us to take a break.
Welcome back. Now, I won't keep you long because I know it's a big climbing day, but since we're in the mountains, it seemed appropriate to mention that next year these mountains will have a tour all to themselves, because the race organisers have recognised the growing popularity of mountain bike racing by announcing that from 1995, as well as the race we all know and love, there'll also be a mountain bike Tour de France.
Tour de France is a great sport event, and our society wants to have diversification in many other sports, and we imagine that mountain bike is now very popular in France, and we really want to do something on that, so we decided to make a tour of France with VTT next year in '95.
Well, details of the race are about as thin as the mountain air at the moment, but here's what we do know. The Mountain Bike Tour de France will be run in August after the main tour. It'll be a 2-week race, and judging from the frequency of the fat-tyre bikes we saw coming up the mountain this morning, it'll be a very popular event indeed. Of course, for the purists, and that includes us, it'll never beat the real thing. Real mountain bike racing now, back out on the road with Phil and Paul.
Well, thanks, Gary. I thought riding around France on ordinary bicycles was hard enough, and this man has made it the hardest way. He slowed down dramatically there, Paul, Richard Virenque, but I think it was just a slight stumble in his rhythm. But the situation behind is changing all of the time. This is the chase which is going on around about 5 minutes and 45 seconds behind Richard Virenque, and Pantani, who's caught Udo Boltz, is now catching Laurent Dufaux as well. So the early breakaway is now coming back here to Pantani, and the only riders in front of these two riders now are Cubino, Pelliccioli and Rodriguez. They've reformed just a couple of kilometres ago, about 3.5 minutes behind Richard Virenque. So we've got Virenque, 3 chasers, Cubino, Pelliccioli, Rodriguez, and now we've got Dufaux, Pantani and Boltz as well. The main field is at 8.25 minutes, and that is what we're looking at now.
Well, the main field, or what remains of it, there are actually only 18 riders in this group, and most of the main leaders, the contenders for the overall standings in the Tour de France are here. Tony Rominger had quite a hard time before on the Tourmalet, but he managed to get back into this group, and he's now recovering a little bit, but I think it will be a very difficult ascent of Lourdes Ardiden for him. And the pink jersey there on the far side is Alex Zula, who seems to be riding exceptionally well today, and in the middle there, Pascal Lino on the Festina squad as well. Luc Leblanc from Festina is also in this group, as is Pietro Ugrumov the Gay Whiz rider.
This is the group of Pantani and Bolts, and I think they've dropped, in fact, Dufaux. There he is. So they've gone straight by him and sent him back towards the Indurain group, and Pantani doing all of the work here, and Bolts just sitting at the back.
Well, Pantani's doing a great job. He opened up the gap very rapidly on the yellow jersey group. I think, unfortunately, though, Richard Virenque, who's here, going to have 10 kilometres to go, had too much of a lead for Pantani to be able to bridge that gap. But I think Marco Pantani is a rider we're going to see an awful lot of when we go into the Alps in a couple of days' time.
6 miles of climbing to go for Richard Virenque, the new king of the mountains in this year's Tour, and he's really taken it in style today, on the day that Claudio Chiappucci never came out to ride the stage in the mountains, abandoning the Tour de France for the first time in his career. Still has some form of stomach sickness, which started a couple of days ago. Here's Virenque, and this is a superb solo display today, and the French have fought their way back into this Tour de France. I think they were sick and tired, Paul, of the press saying that the French riders were no good. Bolts has been left by Pantani, who's now rid of the people he's picked up on the climb so far, and he can get back on with discovering his own rhythm again, which is what climbers like to do. They don't like people riding near them. And now Pantani can get on with aiming at the 3 who stay in front of him, apart from Virenque, and that's Cubino, Pelliccioli and Rodriguez. They are about 2 minutes ahead of Pantani at the last time check we got. 5:53 to Pantani. Actually, Pantani is not making any progress on him.
Not at all. I think that was an incredible burst that he started off with on the Col du Tourmalet, but since then he really hasn't been able to close down anymore, which actually means that Richard Virenque is riding exceptionally well.
The train still being driven by Jean-Francois Bernard, and Indurain always 3rd or 4th. He's been there the whole day today.
So, Phil, I've just got a communication over the radio that, in fact, the yellow jersey group is now at 9 minutes and 25 seconds.
That's amazing.
To Richard Virenque. So he's actually doing a really good job today, moving up the overall standings. There's been no reaction in the yellow jersey group. Miguel Indurain is not worried about Richard Virenque, and maybe he should start to worry a little bit, because the Festina squad are moving a lot of riders up in the overall standings.
Well, this is the situation in the chase group, and I'm not sure, but Rominger might be in trouble again down there. That might be Rominger. We haven't got a camera down there at the moment, but it looked like the hunchback of Rominger sliding off the back. And this group is down to 3, 6, 9, 12 riders left in the group down there now. And I think, Paul, that Tony Rominger was going off the back of the group down there, and I don't see him in this group.
I can't see him in there, Phil, but in fact Barney Race must have made an incredible comeback along the Valley Road, because he's now got back into the yellow jersey group with Miguel Indurain, and I think I caught sight of De Las Cuevas in there too.
And there is Rominger, and they're looking a very lonely man indeed.
He's having a very hard time, the Swiss ex-contender for the Tour de France victory, because I think his chances are going out of the window today.
Well, we're now at 5 kilometres to go, and Richard Virenque is still, as far as we know, pulling away from Miguel Indurain. The last check we got was 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and Rominger is also in big trouble once again and has been left by the Indurain group, which is down to about 10 riders. And this is the man who is doing tremendous rides, and the man who's trying to catch him and ploughing through the field steadily is Pantani. He rid himself earlier on of Udo Bolts, and now he is coming up behind Nelson Rodriguez here, and just in front is Cubino. And so it leads me to believe that Pelliccioli has gone forward rather than backward, and is still ahead on the road.
Another revelation on the Festina squad here, Pascal Hervé. He's been dropped from the yellow jersey group of Miguel Indurain, but he's a rider who turned professional very late in his career, 28 years of age. And you can see now that Miguel Indurain, realizing that Tony Rominger is gone, he really wants to, I think, give him the final coup de grace.
Yes, and of course, if he does start to wind it up again, he's going to eat into that 9-minute deficit. It looks as though, in fact, number 61 here, Alex Zula, is also in a little bit of trouble. He's seeing the line go through on his inside. That's not a good sign. Angel Camargo is the rider, 175. The Kelme climbers are all here. Buena Hora, who's riding his first Tour de France, is 172, and now I think he's run out of steam as well. Pavel Tonkov has moved up into second place behind Indurain, and just as we saw on Haut-de-Camp, the man in yellow is now beginning to stoke up the fire.
Yes, but the man who was with him on Haut-de-Camp is number 91 there, Luc Leblanc. He's managing to stay in contact, and look at Armand de las Cuevas. He's absolutely in seventh heaven here. I think he's really suffering like a man.
The prince of sufferers, de las Cuevas, but he will never give up. He's fighting to hold on to his third place overall. 5:36 behind this morning. 3 kilometres to go. The crowd now, for the first time in the history of the Tour de France on Lourdes-Luz Ardiden, are cheering a Frenchman climbing to victory on the mountain. And as I said earlier, they're mostly the Spanish here, but they're going to settle for Andorra, I think, because that's where the team's registered, that little principality between France and Spain. Luc Leblanc again gritting his teeth, the rider who won at Haut-de-Camp in the Pyrenees. He's trying now to hang on to a revitalised Indurain, who's allowed his team to set all of the pace, all of the day, and as usual, finishes it all off for himself at the finish. Now look at that, no more of his team, no more of anybody really around him, just 3 riders going on now, up towards the finish. And just look at this acceleration, Paul. He sprinted out of that corner and sat down, and now he's gone back into his smooth pedalling rhythm once more.
Well, every time he can, once the incline actually levels off a little bit and he can use his power, he accelerates to try and get rid of the other 2 riders that are with him. The man who's lying in second place there is Vladimir Pulnikov, followed by Luc Leblanc, and it really is almost an action replay, but Leblanc seems to be suffering a lot more than he was on the climb to Haut-de-Camp.
Let's go back up to Pantani, who's now got another rider in front, so that must be Oscar Pelliccioli. And then all that will lie in front of him is the leader himself, Richard Virenque. It's been a steady climb. He's passed every one of the 6 except the one he wants, the leader on the road, in the last half an hour or so. And Pantani, a much more measured attack today, and I don't think anybody will catch him from behind, but he's not going to catch this rider either. 5 minutes 39 to Pantani. Not indeed. Pantani will not see Virenque today, and Virenque will see the finishing line a long way ahead of anybody. It's been a superb performance, a little bit reminiscent, Paul, of that great win at Sestriere a couple of years ago by Claudio Chiappucci.
Definitely a long breakaway, and it's been a great job that this little man has done. In fact, Marco Pantani jumped clear on the Tourmalet and started to eat into that lead very rapidly, but once they got here to Lourdes Ardiden, he hasn't actually pulled back 1 second on Richard Virenque. It was 5 minutes and 35 seconds the deficit at the 10 kilometre to go banner, and it's still 5 minutes and 39 seconds. So in fact, Richard Virenque has moved ahead 4 seconds, but basically there's been no change. So this man here is doing a fantastic ride today. He's got 2 kilometres to go. That's going to take him about 3.5, 4 minutes on a climb like this, and he's going to get a fantastic ovation, I would say, from the Basque people who have turned out in their thousands to watch the race here.
Well, it's going to be superb, and what a reception he's going to get from his manager, because Festina have come into this competition as the last team, and they really have proved their worth now. There's Pelliccioli, the last to be picked up by Pantani. They speak the same language, but they ride on rival Italian teams. This young man who came to the Tour once and took the yellow jersey for a day, and we thought that's the last time you'll ever see the race lead, and it might well turn out to be that way, but it's not the last time he would appear as a strong rider in this race. He has ridden so well this last couple of days. He did a very good time trial as well to keep himself in the action, and today he has been nothing short of magnificent. A long attack, and still Big Mig setting the pace, nobody willing to help him now as he drags Vladimir Pulnikov and Luc Leblanc, the teammate of this man here, Richard Virenque. He's trying to squeeze out every second gain on this stage today, and he's going to hurt him all the way up, and he doesn't care. He wants every second. He's not just coming for the stage win, this young man. He is coming to try and put himself into a position to challenge Miguel Indurain. And a few rides like this in the Alps, which come next week, and there are mountains every day next week. Who knows what will happen yet in this Tour?
Well, the Tour is far from over, because if Miguel Indurain is going to let the climbers get clear like this, he's going to have to be very careful, because now Richard Virenque is going to move up probably into, I would think, 3rd or 4th place. And look at him, he's smiling now. He knows he's got the victory.
It's a laugh, smile, or grimace with the pain right now.
I think that was a smile. He realises that he's got this stage in the bag, and it's a beautiful victory for him. up at the top of the Pyrenees here, looking down over the valley below. He's saluting the crowd already.
I tell you, this might go down as the victory of this year's Tour de France, because he did it from such a far-off starting point today. You can just see his head piercing the skyline of the mountain here. We're almost on the summit. He's still sprinting. He wants to laugh, cheer and wave his arms, but he wants the time as well. He doesn't quite know what to do now, so he's just going to keep on going.
Well, he's really punching away just over the last couple of 100 metres. It's a very tough little finish here. He's got a left-hander and a right-hander, where a couple of years ago Miguel Indurain got rid of Greg LeMond, and it's nearly going to be the greatest victory that this Frenchman has ever had.
Yeah, I would say it is going to be the victory, the best victory he's ever had, Paul. Any second now. These are the easy bends now. Watch that sharp right turn. It always makes for a difficult sprint, but he's inside to the line now. 6 hours and 8 minutes today. Richard Virenque deserves to be the winner. There's no question about that. And the clock will count down. A very good time gap indeed over the men that count. He will climb up the classification tonight. Pantani makes the sharp bend up to the finish. And he too will remain a challenger in this year's Tour de France. He can ride a good time trial too. He was second this year in the Tour of Italy, where he picked up 2 stage wins. And he climbs well, and the next week in this Tour is definitely a climber's race. Mont Ventoux to come, plus all of the Alps. 4 minutes 33 seconds the gap for Pantani. And Indurain continues to drive this particular train as the clock counts down on the left of our screen. And still Vladimir Pulnikov holds on, and so too does Leblanc. And it wouldn't surprise me, Paul, if Luc Leblanc tries to get rid of Indurain and win the sprint.
I'm fairly sure that that's what's going through his mind at the moment, because he tried several times on the climb up to Hautecam to get rid of Miguel Indurain, and he'll be ecstatic by the fact that he knows now that Richard Virenque has won the stage, so he'll be thinking about a psychological win over Miguel Indurain to try and sprint clear over the top.
Third to arrive today. It's been a tough ride for him. He'll finish in 3rd place. The clock putting him back to almost 6 minutes on the line for Pelliccioli. As we look down on Miguel Indurain, Pulnikov and Luc Leblanc, and Luc Leblanc, I think, is planning a little sprint away from these two very shortly. They come up towards the line. Indurain still leads. How the times are changed. When he last came up here to win his stage, he was with Greg LeMond. LeMond became the leader of the Tour, while Indurain won the stage. Now the pressure's on Indurain. Ooh, that's a very nasty bend to get round at any speed at all, that one. And in fact, it's Pulnikov who finds the strength to take on Miguel Indurain and beat him. 7 minutes 41 seconds the gap. So 3 stage wins in as many stages for the French. Richard Virenque this time finishing 4 minutes 34 seconds ahead of Marco Pantani. In 3rd place, Oscar Pelliccioli. Miguel Indurain finishes in 6th place, 7 minutes 42 seconds after Virenque. And on the podium, the Frenchman, his eyes twinkling, reflecting on what has been a brilliant day for him in the Pyrenees. Sean Yates came in just off the back of a large group, losing 25 minutes and 26 seconds. And then came the race for the last man to beat the time limit. Giovanni Fidanza, racing up the hill, was trying to get inside the delay, and he made it by just 17 seconds. He paid the price for his effort, collapsing when he crossed the line and having to receive oxygen. But on a day when 10 riders gave up the Tour de France, including Claudio Chiappucci, Gert-Jan Teunissen and Steven Rux, Fidenza lives to fight another day. Overall, Miguel Indurain has increased his lead to 7 minutes and 56 seconds. In joint 2nd place now, Tony Rominger and Richard Virenque. De Las Cuevas is in 4th, then Luc Leblanc, and Vladimir Pulnikov is 6th. A fresh yellow jersey on the shoulders of Miguel Indurain tonight as he goes back down the mountain, receiving the applause of the crowd who had cheered him all the way up the hill. Well, the riders will be off on flatter roads tomorrow. I think almost all of them in this race will be happy about that. The crowd's behind me. It took them hours to get here. It's going to take them even longer now to get off this mountain tonight, and I think that includes us. Just time to mention our competition this Sunday. If you think you know the winner, this is the telephone number, 0891 44 44 44. It's Saturday tomorrow, so our programme at a different time, coming to you at 7 o'clock. And until then, goodbye.